Hi everybody, Geo here, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do Chapter 12 of The Dark. North Dome, Tower 7, Rias' apartment. Ian. I wasn't the first to fall asleep. Rias was. He had no stamina, and last night had exhausted him. It was fun. We both needed the diversion. But Rias needed sleep. I wish I could. As I pulled him close, he cuddled into my arm. It had been nearly a year since I cared about someone like this. But this time, it was different. No one had ever needed me like Rias needed me. Maybe I was reading more into this than I should. Maybe we were two lonely people who were afraid of being alone and just needed someone to hold. Or maybe we were falling for each other. At least I was falling for him. I gently kissed his cheek. I wasn't alone anymore, and I had a purpose. My purpose? Taking care of the man who rescued me, loving the man in my arms. He needed me. Rias had saved my life. I needed him. That admission woke the pain and fear inside me. He had saved me, and he was still saving me. I finally drifted back to sleep. The nightmare began again. "Robinson, get out of there." Rias shook me awake before it got bad. I didn't even try to sleep after that, but lay awake, holding Rias while he drowsed. Pressed up against Rias' warmth made me safe. I rubbed a finger along his cheek. He woke and placed a hand on mine. "I love you," I whispered. "Don't worry, I'll protect you," he whispered and kissed me. 6:30. We lay next to each other, drowsing. My data pad buzzed. "It's too early," I groaned, and activated privacy mode. "Are you scheduled to fly today?" Rias mumbled. "Not until much later," I said. Rias' datapad buzzed. "Incoming call from Gutierrez? Are you sure?" Rias whispered. "It's probably a simple reminder," I said. "Datapad, take a message, engage privacy mode, and play something relaxing," Rias whispered. Something nice played from his datapad. It automatically synced into the room, and a soft, ambient music filled the space. "You have a good taste in music. Can you make it so I can talk to my datapad?" I said, and kissed Rias' forehead. "Do you want it to talk back too?" Rias said, chuckling. We held each other and drifted back to sleep. "Are you two alive in there?" "Gutierrez?" I said. He was standing just outside our bedroom door. His eyes widened a little, and a slight smile crossed his lips. "Bad timing," he said. "The worst," I said. "Morning. What time is it?" Rias mumbled. "Time for visitors," Emilio said, standing next to Gutierrez. Gutierrez didn't know whether to smile or be embarrassed. Emilio smiled and said, "Hot damn, barely out of medical even." "Why are you here?" Rias asked. "Business. Gutierrez, call Doc and tell him to stop worrying. They're fine," Emilio said. Both Rias and I sat up. "Doc, they were asleep," Gutierrez said from the other room. "Tell the others to give us 5. Emilio stood in the doorway of our bedroom, grinning. "Rias, even asleep you make Doc mad." "Sir, what are you doing here? How are you here?" I asked. "Administrator emergency override. We needed to talk to both of you, but neither one of you could be reached," Emilio said. "Is there some kind of emergency?" Rias asked. Emilio's grin faded. "Something like that. I need both of you ready and alert. You're having company." "Give us a minute," I said as Emilio closed the door. I helped Rias to his feet, and he said, "It doesn't make any sense. I've been here or medical. You've been out to the Audi and medical and here." 30 seconds in the refresher, a minute to straighten the bedroom, and hopefully we were ready for guests. Maybe it's news about the captain. I handed Rias his clothes and fumbled into mine. I've only met Rowan once, and I barely remember it. She wouldn't be back yet, would she? Has it been long enough? Sitting, Rias pulled his clothes on. It's much too soon. Your treatments, then. Doc must have found something and needs me to take you back to medical, I said. Must be. Wouldn't put it past Doc to give me an internal sensor. My heart rate must have spiked last night, Rias said. I leaned over and kissed him. Then I must have one too, the old pervert. We finished dressing, and I went into the living room and removed some old clothes from the couch, while Rias limped to the kitchen to start coffee. He was stronger today. He hadn't used the crutch last night when he took my arm to the charger. Gutierrez and Emilio looked over my arm as it rested in the charger. The door buzzed, and Gutierrez opened it. At the door were Doc, Perlita, Mr. Gunther, and his assistant, a woman about my age with long black hair and a red jumpsuit. Perlita scowled and held a hand over her nose. This had better be important. I do not like coming to North Dome. Sorry about the wait, Rias said from the kitchen. We weren't expecting company, but coffee will be ready in a few minutes. My apologies about the early hour, but the Orion's belt leaves at 8, Mr. Gunther said. You can sit anywhere you want, but don't touch anything, I said. Emilio smiled. I remember. I've been here before. This must be the Joya. You've already built the old-fashioned grav engines modules. Doc, Gutierrez, look at the detail on this. After I helped Rias take a stool, I poured coffee and passed the cups around. It felt so good being needed again. I understand you built the LRCD Venganza de Dios on display in the CNC tower, Mr. Gunther said. I've taken pictures, and I'll forward them to the captain. I think he'll be impressed. Rias shrugged. I can't take all the credit. Gutierrez helped me with the wiring. In some places I needed a little help. He's just modest. If I hadn't been around, he would have had Rafaela or Dalila hold the wires while he micro-welded them in place, Gutierrez said. I guess that's the old Rias. Couldn't slow down, built or rebuilt everything, drove everybody crazy, and too humble for his own good. New Rias? Definitely slowed down. Doc took a sip and balanced the cup on his knee. Ian, how's the arm doing? Any issues? Pretty smooth, and it looks good. I've gotten a few jealous stares already, I said. Rias does good work, Emilio said. It took 4 of us, Rias said. I couldn't have done it without Doc, Gutierrez, and Ian. Yes, you could have, Doc said, but you had just come out of a coma and needed people to get parts for you. The tubes in my bunk didn't have a very long range, Rias said. That reminds me. You remember Rodriguez and ore processing? He saw Ian's arm and wondered if you could look at his. It's an older model, probably older than Zacharias's, but he's having some trouble with the joints, Doc said. Dad always had trouble with the elbow joint, Rias said. Until you redesigned it, Gutierrez said. I can look at it, Rias said, but if I need to upgrade it to something like Ian's, we'll have to order some parts. I cannibalized Dad's arm for a lot of the components in Ian's, especially circuitry. It took years to find them all in salvage. Perhaps you should consider a career in custom prosthetics, Mr. Gunther said. Not much of a market around here, Emilio said. But if his clientele included Campbell Station, SRK-12, and other nearby jump points, Rias could make it work, Mr. Gunther said. They would have to come here, Doc said. I won't allow him into jump space for a long time. What's left of his marrow couldn't handle it. No one else noticed, but Rias stiffened at the last comment. I stood beside him and placed my hand on his shoulder. Don't worry, I whispered to him, taking his hand in mine. It's not forever. Atmospherics and cybernetics and your replicas, I bet that still won't keep you out of trouble, Emilio said. Even Mr. Gunther quirked a small smile at that. Mr. Travieso, you have garnished quite a interesting reputation. I kissed Rias on the forehead. Yes, he has. Perlita snorted. Yes, we all know he makes little things and fixes trinkets, but we don't have time for this. Nuestra won't run itself. Do you realize how much work there is getting a cargo hauler ready to launch? Uh-oh. Perlita and Rias in the same room. The mood soured almost immediately. I was unaware that Emilio required you to refuel and load a cargo hauler personally. Your personnel file did not indicate proficiency in grav lifters or crawlers or any other kind of heavy equipment. Emilio, are your records lacking detail? Mr. Gunther said. No, sir, Emilio said. Explain yourself, Mrs. De Leon, Mr. Gunther said. It's not me exactly. Val oversees the process from the spaceport. I handle procedures from CNC, Perlita said. Those should already be done. I would have thought spending a few minutes with your nephew, outside of medical, a pleasant diversion, Mr. Gunther said. My mistake. Allow me to present Marisol Hernandez, my aide. She grew up on Nuestra before her family moved to Campbell Station. It's a pleasure to be back, she said. I remember Alejandro from grade school. It's been a while. We shook hands, but I stayed by Rias' side, between him and his aunt. I think everyone knew about their lack of a relationship. And now, even Mr. Gunther. Back to business, Emilio said, a slight frown on his face as he glanced at Perlita. Administrator, second in command, corporate exec, head pilot, chief medical. What does the top brass want with us? Rias asked. We both just got out of medical, I said. I'm barely even cleared to fly a shuttle. Emilio sipped at the cup, leaned forward, and said, Simple. Ian, it's what you know and what Rias saw. Mr. Alvarado, Mr. Gunther said, let me present a few facts you are not aware of. Of the 2 black boxes of the LRCH Adi Shachar, only one was recoverable. The other is buried under a radioactive reactor with hundreds of tons of concrete on it. There is no way we can get that one, and after what happened to Mr. Travieso, nobody wants to. What about the cockpit one? I asked. We retrieved that one, but a lot of the information was damaged. Because of the crash, we could only recover a limited amount of current flight plans and bridge recordings, and ship's data from the AI, and only a little of the latest scans. Marisol stepped forward, pulled Rias' replica of the Dagger XF from a container, and set it on the table. Mr. Travieso, you are the only witness to the ship above the Adi Shachar. The little information we could pull from the ship's memory corroborates Mr. Alvarado's account that there were 2 ships, but beyond that, we could get nothing. How can you trust his memory? Perlita said. With the injuries he suffered, it could have been an hallucination. Doc sighed. Issues with his immune system, marrow, and blood work, yes. Issues with his mind, no. Then you believe me? Rias asked. His hand found mine as if to seek support. Mr. Gunther didn't show a trace of emotion. I always have. But I need something more concrete to show the Bentley-Thwaite Corporation. That is why I need Mr. Alvarado's help as well. Me? I said. According to your report, the Adi Shachar launched a drone a few hours before it crashed. You know the exact course you traveled, and speed. I want you to recreate the flight plan and locate that drone. Rias, we must assume the drone is damaged because we cannot find it. You have the skills to repair it on the spot. It might be that Ian will need your expertise to locate it and bring it in, Mr. Gunther said. Perlita snorted. You want the information recorded on the drone because the drone has the undamaged data files? I asked. I took the arm from the charger and attached it to my shoulder collar on the 3rd try. It is the only way to verify what Rias and I suspect, Mr. Gunther said. I believe its data holds the key as to why raiders are here in MRD-1 and why they are willing to commit murder to achieve those ends. It might even give us motive as to who at Nuestra is helping them. Is that why we are all here? Perlita said. Mr. Gunther allowed a small smile to cross his lips for an instant. Mrs. De Leon, an excellent question. I have no choice but to trust you. Rias and Ian will need the assistance of everyone in this room to accomplish their task. Emilio folded his arms. Trust? Gutierrez said. There are 6 people who have access to the jump point database, Marisol said. 3 of them are here, you, Perlita, and Emilio. The other 3, Carla Perez, also in administration, Roldan de la Fuente, who is in charge of all data files on Nuestra, and Tristan Busto, who is in charge of the Madre AI. We will speak with shortly. Perlita crossed her arms, and I swear her eyes flashed fire. I'm still under suspicion, but I'm second in command. I've proved my loyalty years ago. Please think about this from our point of view, Marisol said, and lifted the dagger XF. Someone is an accomplice to murder and attempted murder. I don't think the raiders are trespassing because they like the view. No offense, but it's kind of a boring system. You are in charge of traffic through the jump gate. Either you did it, you knew about it, or somebody allowed them through on your watch. The Bentley-Thwaite Corporation requires answers from you. That's not what disturbs me, Emilio said, taking the dagger from Marisol. If Rias is right, there are 12 of these somewhere in the system, and a Hades Inferno. If he's wrong, we don't know how many there are, or what kind of carrier. Which is why we need the information on the drone, Mr. Gunther said. You're devious, Mr. Gunther, Gutierrez said. If something interferes with finding the drone, then you know one of us is guilty. Emilio chortled. You and your games. At least they are better than the South Dome sewer problems. What about Carla and the others? We have an appointment with them right after we're done here, Marisol said, and set her half-drunk cup of coffee on the table, shifting lined-up parts to make room. Rias tensed when he saw that. His hand tightened around mine. We have to get him a room to work so no one disturbs the way he thinks. Why am I here, then? I only have access to the medical database, not scheduling or jump gate, Dog said. I will be returning on the Orion's Belt to Campbell Station, and there I believe Doctors Tanaka and Benson of R&D might have a solution for Rias's condition. Mr. Gunther's eyebrows lowered a fraction. Your job is... More treatments for Rias? Perlita shouted. We can't afford the ones he's getting now, and you want more? How do you expect us to pay for this? Calm down, Perlita, Emilio said. We'll manage. We always have. I will not. Nuestra has always been on the edge of financial disaster. I've spent years stabilizing our economy, so it is out of the red. You didn't care. You left it to me. I balanced our budget. However, Rias's custom treatments have upset that balance and will destroy us. Do you understand how much one treatment costs? And now he needs more? We can't afford it, Perlita yelled. Perlita, Emilio said, glancing at Rias. That was uncalled for. My prosthetic fist clenched faster than I thought possible. You're going to let him die? That's cold. You need to face facts, Perlita said. The crash caused a lot of expensive damage. The manufacturing dome has a crack running right through the middle from one end to the other. 2 tram cars collided when Madre went offline. The reactor shut down for 10 seconds, and when it came online, the power surge fried a lot of atmospheric processors. And finally, we had water leaks all over the hydroponics dome, and still do. A lot of that has already been fixed, Emilio said. Perlita continued, as if she'd never noticed the interruption. Rias requires custom nanite treatments built to match his biochemistry and specialized in bone marrow reconstruction. That's expensive. Ian nearly crashed on top of us, and the near miss with full grav engines cost hundreds of millions of credits. Between Ian and Rias, we're far past broke. It's going to come down to keeping Rias alive, or fixing the remaining damage Ian caused, or paying the bills of Nuestra. We can't do all 3. For a moment, there was silence. Rias broke it. You need to look at the bigger picture, Aunt. Robinson died. One of our cargo haulers was attacked, and we have enemies in the system. We didn't bring them here, I said. We didn't provoke them. We were just flying to the jump gate, just like we've done for years. They attacked us, destroyed our ship and our cargo. Perlita drew herself up to her full height and smiled. Whatever the reason, it still comes down to the fact that Nuestra cannot afford Rias's treatments. The damage you caused, Ian, or our basic bills. Who do you expect to pay when we can't get filters for atmospherics, or specialty electronics for the reactor? The raiders? We'll send them a bill. I'm sure they'll pay. While you are looking for the stupid drone, would you mind finding me a place to send the bill to? Ian and Rowan were dying, and all you could do was complain about broken lights, Rias said. Marisol was about to say something, but Mr. Gunther shushed her. You mean that to keep Nuestra solvent they should have died? Gutierrez said. If Karina needed a special treatment for her pregnancy, it would be better if she died? My baby would have to die so Nuestra would live? That's not what I'm saying, Perlita said. Pregnancies are common. Custom nanite treatments are not. You've never delivered a baby, Doc muttered. I know how expensive I am. Do you want to see? Datapad, room view, my medical financial record, Rias said. The wall monitor clicked on, showing the price chart from Rias's file. You and that damn datapad, Doc said. You've been snooping in your files. You weren't ever supposed to see that. Sorry, Doc. I had to know about my condition, Rias said. And now we all know that I might be home, but I never left critical. Emilio, you need help fixing something? As long as Doc can keep me alive, I'll fix it for you. Maybe I can save you some credits. I'll help you, I said. I'm not as good as Rias at fixing things, but I'm not bad. And there's 2 shuttles down there. You got yourself another pilot. Why don't you show a list of the things that need to get fixed or replaced? Perlita said. I don't have clearance for such things, Rias said. Maybe you should post this list and we can have a big party fixing things. Ha! Emilio laughed. That's a good idea. A fix-it party. Free Nuestran beer as a reward for everyone. Morale will shoot through the roof, and that will make Ian a hero. You think fixing a few things will solve our problems? Have you been listening? Perlita yelled. All these years in CNC, and you still haven't learned? Emilio said, and lifted his cup. Can I get some more of that coffee? I refilled his cup. The atmosphere in here was too tense. Maybe a change of subject would work. Let's talk about the drone. I'll need some data, especially whatever you have from the Adi, Shachar, and the CNC. We have to assume the drone took some damage, Rias said. I'll need complete specs, communication frequencies. Is it a newer one with its own AI or an older one running on pre-programmed algorithms? Gutierrez whispered loud enough for all of us to hear. Mr. Gunther, it's your fault. You gave Rias a problem, and it looks like Ian is just as bad. I see your point, Mr. Gutierrez, Mr. Gunther said. Captain Rowan requisitioned the newer ones. The Adi Shachar had them, if they're not already salvaged, I said. Analyzing a real one would be easier than looking over abstract specs. I think a short-range burst transmission, well, Rias said. Maybe some kind of specialized transmitter mounted on the shuttle, I said. If I can get close enough, we could sync my datapad, Rias said. Rias, is there anything your datapad can't do? Doc mumbled. That means we have to figure out a way to track, I said. Enough. This isn't a game, Perlita said. How do you expect to pay for all this? You've already used up any reserves we had, and now you want to modify a shuttle? We only have 2. They kind of need one, Doc said, turning to Mr. Gunther. So that's my job. Keep them both alive long enough so they can do their job, and give the information over to you so you can do your job. None of you are listening, Perlita said. I've achieved the impossible. I've made this colony profitable, and none of you seem to care. So what? We have raiders in the system. They've never bothered us, or hurt us, or damaged any of our mines. We only took damage because the Adi Shachar crashed on top of us. That antique piece of trash did more damage than they ever did. My hand must have squished Rias's hand. He said, Relax. Your prosthetic is stronger than you realize. None of you understand our position, Perlita said, sitting taller and smiling. That's why Rias should be declared a ward of Bentley Thwaite. A what? I asked, looking at Emilio. That way they assume all care and financial responsibility. Further, the crash and our damage should be declared an emergency, so relief funds will come our way to pay for all the damage. Perlita said, hands on her hips, a smug expression on her face. Emilio, Rias said. What is she talking about? Emilio stood up, walked to us, and placed a hand on Rias's shoulder. An option I prayed we'd never have to use, and thank whatever God you believe in, we don't. Perlita, we talked about this and the emergency declaration, and I told you no, and I explained why. I don't appreciate you going around my authority like this. A couple of questions before I explain further. Doc, explain Rias's condition for the first 2 weeks after his return, Mr. Gunther said. Critical and going downhill. It didn't matter what I did. Nothing seemed to work, Doc said. Rias, explain your activities for the next 2 weeks, please, Marisol said. I stayed in bed a lot, non-stop nanite infusion, saw a lot of people. I chimed in, made graffiti all over the floor, built an arm, escaped medical in the middle of night mode. I had to hunt you down. Don't forget about your wild party last night, Gutierrez said. Both Rias and I chuckled. I'm glad none of my other patients are like you two, Doc said. Sorry, Doc, we both said at once. Marisol joined in with a slight smile. A ward is a special designation for patients in critical care who are not expected to recover. Your, exploits since awakening have proven that you are not eligible. I concur, Mr. Gunther said. I'm glad you came out of your coma and demonstrated your abilities. It is my hope that you will make a full recovery, though I understand it might take a while, and for that I am sorry. Perlita, Emilio said, our people don't need and don't want outsiders interfering in our lives. An emergency declaration would have all kinds of strings and obligations, and we would eventually have to pay it back. Nuestrans have always been independent, and though it will take another few months, everything will be back to normal. Rias, that's another reason I'm sending you to atmospherics. Hector needs the help. Ian, we need pilots. We don't have a way to train them here, so whatever you can do will be most appreciated. You're overlooking the problems, Perlita said. Mrs. De Leon, I think you've displayed your loyalties adequately. Mr. Gunther pulled up his datapad and switched through a few screens. MRD-1 is a Bentley-Thwaite system. Nuestro mining colony is a Bentley-Thwaite colony. The Adi Shachar was a Bentley-Thwaite jump-capable cargo hauler. Mr. Alvarado, Mr. Travieso, and Mr. Robinson, and the others involved in the Adi Shachar incident are all Bentley-Thwaite employees, as are you. In your own words, the raiders have never bothered us. The Bentley-Thwaite Corporation does not take trespassing of military ships in its territory, destruction of one of its ships, the loss of billions in cargo, the murder of Mr. Robinson, and the attempted murder of Mr. Alvarado and Captain Rowan, nor the critical injuries of your nephew lightly. Why do you? When Mr. Gunther looked up from his datapad, his gray eyes were colder than anything I had ever seen. They had a slight swivel as they focused. Ocular implants. He was recording this meeting directly into his datapad. Perlita had overstepped her job description with a man from corporate. Was Mr. Gunther Emilio's boss? That would make him one of the most powerful men in this part of the Bentley-Thwaite arm. What do you mean? Perlita stammered. You heard the question. I want your answer, Mr. Gunther said. I wrapped my arms around Rias. He had connected his datapad to Madre and had 9 images of potential drones on the screen, but he paused before continuing, waiting for Perlita's answer. Gutierrez stood by the window, stiff, arms folded, and jaw set. It's simple, Perlita said. They are not affecting our bottom line. For the first time in decades, maybe ever, we are profitable, or were until Ian crashed on top of us. I was about to say something really profane, until I felt Rias take my prosthetic hand. Instead, I forced a long, slow exhale. To cover my anger, I said, Would anyone like another cup of coffee? Yes, Mr. Alvarado, Mr. Gunther said. A second cup, please. I took the pot over and refreshed his mug. Anyone else? Doc needed a refill. That really is a remarkable arm, Mr. Gunther said, but he showed No emotion. I probably shouldn't have, but I unhooked it and let Mr. Gunther look at it. "We were working on sensitivity settings last night," I said. "If we set it high enough, it feels real." "Rias, you know better," Doc said. Rias didn't respond. His stubbly head didn't move or twitch. He sat on the stool, staring at the window. I think I wasn't the only one who was getting angry. "Rias, how many times did you have to replace the power regulators in your dad's arm?" Gutierrez said. "That was only the first model. I got the power balanced after that," Rias said, looking at me. I think I know what he meant. That must have been when he installed the AI. I had the smartest arm on Nuestra, maybe even in the entire Bentley-Thwaite Corporation. I might have smiled a little. Mr. Gunther handed the arm back. I reconnected it and stood next to Rias. His left hand found my right and held it tightly. His hand was freezing, and he looked pale. He held on to me, tight. Was he going dizzy and using me to stay upright? He wasn't saying anything. Either this conversation bothered him more than I thought, or I needed to get him to medical. How long had it been since his treatment? "That's our Rias. He keeps working on something until he gets it right," Emilio said. "The point is, Mrs. De Leon, Nuestra colony is not made of numbers, but of people. When given a chance, look at what humanity can build. The original colonists worked for years, refusing any help, and look at Nuestra because of it." "We're not them," Perlita said, and folded her arms, her chin defiantly raised. "Yes, you are. You took what they started and built on it," Mr. Gunther said, and sipped from his cup, crossing his legs. He set his cup on the table, careful not to disturb the parts. "About half of the people are descended from the original founders. Everybody else came here because they were just like them. Not everybody can handle a place as remote as Nuestra. But everyone here can," Doc said. "Do you think anyone's complaining about the Adi Shachar crashing?" Emilio said. "No. Critical systems were repaired within a day. Other repairs will take a little longer. People needed help, and we stepped up. That's the Nuestra way." "Actually, there was one complaint," Gutierrez said. "Carla took it. It was one of the miners, and they complained that Ian crashed the ship too far away. He should have crashed it closer because it took too long for salvage crews to get there and back." "As second in command," Mr. Gunther said, "your duty is to care for the people. Bentley-Thwaite does not care if Nuestra is under budget or over budget. It's only 500 people, more or less. It's on the fringe, where most people will never go. Nuestra is a long-term investment, one that might take another century to be profitable. You should know that, which makes me wonder where your real priorities lie." "What?" Perlita asked. "I'm disappointed in your performance," Mr. Gunther said. Whatever they were talking about, I didn't follow. I nodded at Doc, then pointed at Rias with my chin. "Emilio, I'm sorry, but for the foreseeable future, I need to postpone your retirement. It appears that there are staffing issues that you need to solve," Mr. Gunther said. "Yes, sir," Emilio said. Doc came over, took a closer look at Rias. Rias slouched, leaning against me, eyes closed. "Mrs. De Leon, second in command is not working out for you," Mr. Gunther said, and nodded to Marisol. She typed into her datapad. "You're replacing me? Because of a broken spacer and a dying tech? You can't do that," Perlita said. "You're jumping authority, assuming duties that belong to the administrator, ignoring the people who need you," Mr. Gunther said. "I have spoken with Emilio at length about an emergency declaration and about Rias's ongoing medical care, and we have come to an agreement on them. In Emilio's words, Nuestra takes care of its own. That includes repairs to the colony and Rias's condition." Perlita placed her hands on her hips and faced Emilio. "Emilio, you don't understand the problems." Whatever conversation they were having, they never even noticed us. I placed a hand on Rias's forehead, a little warm. He moved like someone had unplugged his brain. "Are you okay?" I whispered. "Just tired," he said, barely opening his eyes. Rias had given me access to his datapad back in medical. Did I still have it? "Datapad, display Rias's current medical condition, please." The display showed blood work, basic stats like heart rate and ejection fraction, nanite count, and so much I didn't understand. It included a time log of his complete medical condition. I bet Doc didn't have all this. I showed Doc. "What did Rias do to his datapad this time?" Doc said, flipping through the readings. He started to frown about 10 seconds later. "You know Rias," I said. "If he's not asleep, he's working on something," Doc said. "Excuse us, I want Rias in medical." "Perlita, have you considered that it is you who don't understand the problems?" Marisol said. "I'm sorry, but Rias needs his treatments," I said. "I know this is important, but Rias is more important to me." Mr. Gunther looked at me, then at Rias. His pupils slightly narrowed. Could he access Rias's datapad and see the information on it? What kind of a security clearance did he have? "I concur, and I need to catch my flight," he said, and nodded at Marisol. "Until further notice, on this date, Perlita de Leon, you are removed as second in command of the Nuestro colony. Emilio, please select a temporary to act in her place pending a formal review, and please assign Mrs. de Leon to another position," Marisol said. "You can't do that," Perlita screeched, and ran her hand along the table, scattering Rias's carefully organized tools and all the carefully cut out parts for the replica of the LREV Joya de Vida. "No," Rias screamed. I held him as he lunged forward, but he was too weak. His legs collapsed under him. "After all I have done for this colony?" Perlita screeched. Rias's datapad screamed, "Medical alert, medical alert, medical alert, emergency communication sent." Doc's datapad buzzed. Emilio's datapad buzzed. Gutierrez's datapad buzzed. My datapad buzzed. "Medical alert, medical alert." "Get that woman out of here," I yelled. "Datapad, monitor Rias's condition, but quietly." "Understood." Marisol froze. Gutierrez lunged for Perlita's hand, grasped it, and prevented it from spilling any more of the parts on the floor. Emilio leaped over the table to help me catch Rias. Rias was unconscious. "I hoped this wouldn't happen," Doc said and yelled into his datapad. "Madre, emergency medical transport, my location, infirm medical. Ian, can you carry him?" "I'll help," Emilio said. "Mr. Gunther, we'll have to continue this later." "Rias, what happened?" yelled a voice from the hall. She had green hair and was holding a buzzing datapad. "Rafaela," I said, "Perlita happened. See the table? Close up the apartment, please. We're going to medical." Between me and Emilio, we got Rias in the lift and downstairs. A grav lifter waited for us. "What happened?" I asked Doc. Doc still held Rias's datapad and flipped through screens. The intense shock caused a critical cascade reaction among the nanite colonies that make up what's left of Rias's blood and his marrow. His body couldn't handle it. I didn't know grav lifts could move that fast, but it wasn't fast enough for me. "Hold on," I whispered to Rias, but he looked as pale as ever. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you listening. We'll see you next time. Peace.